This time I'm going to show you how to make this large tote bag. It's a very simple bag to make, but I think it looks quite impressive because of its size and because of the fabric that I've used. Now for this one I've used a tapestry fabric. This is Lisbon Windows. You could use a cotton fabric, you could use any kind of canvas or denim, but a nice sturdy fabric for a big bag like this I think works well. On the inside I've used a fusible craft fleece. You could use an H630, H640 or those kind of equivalents, which are fusible polyester fleece. That gives it even more rigidity, and this time I've just used webbing for handles. Now this fastens over with a hidden magnetic snap, and there's just one pocket on the inside. Of course you can add more of those if you wanted to, and it's got a nice size base on this as well, so it's a very roomy bag. So whether you're going to work, you're going to the beach, or you're just going shopping, you can fit an awful lot in there, and the straps are long enough so that you can put it over your shoulder as well. So I'll put the measurements and the details of the materials that you need in the description box below, so go choose your fabric and let's get sewing. So I've got two pieces of outer fabric, and this measures 18 inches across and 16 inches down. I've fused fleece to the wrong side of each one of those, and that's a fusible craft fleece, and then I've cut two lining pieces all to the same size. The pocket, which is made from lining fabric, measures 14 inches by 9.5 inches. And then I also have two pieces of webbing for the handle, and these measure 23 inches long each. And I'm going to have a hidden magnetic snap as my fastening. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut a shape to the bag. So we'll take one of the outer pieces to start with, and I'm going to measure 3 inches from each bottom corner and just mark that. If you can't see your mark with a pen, then a chalk may be advisable, or you can just pop a pin in there as well. So that was here, and 3 inches from the second bottom corner, which is here, and then we cut a line from the top of the bag, from that top corner all the way down to the line, to the pin, sorry, and the same on this, and then the same on the other outer section and on the two lining pieces as well. So 2 outer, 2 lining, all to the same size. The next thing we're going to do is to cut out a square from the base. I'll do this on the lining because you can see it better. I've got 2 pieces of lining fabrics both together here, and let's take our ruler. Now because this isn't a right angle, we're not going to cut the base out level with the bottom of the bag because the side measurement will be slightly longer. So the idea is I'm taking a 2-inch mark here to twist that around, so it's actually 2.25 inches from each one of those corners, and because they need to be the right length basically. So let's take my erasable pen and draw in the line, and the same on this corner. So again, if I were to have this straight against the edge, I'd have one line that's 2 inches and one line that's 2.5, which it isn't right. It needs to match up, it needs to be the same. So let's pivot it around so it's the same distance from each side, so that's 2.25 inches again, and then we'll cut out the shape. And save that because we'll use it as a template to cut the same shape from the outer bag section. So again, we'll cut this from each bottom corner, And then the next thing we need to do is to make up the pocket, which will go on the lining side. So let's move those to one side for now. Take my pocket piece, and I'm going to fold this in half with the folded edge at the top, and sew around the bottom 3 sides, but leave a turning gap of a couple of inches in the bottom here. Snip across the corners. And then we'll turn this the right side out and give it a quick press. So if you have any kind of corner tool, turning tool, knitting needle, blunt pencil, just poke those corners out to make it nice and square. And then we'll iron that and top stitch across the top of the pocket. So quick press there. I'm not worried about sewing the turning gap closed, because when we sew this into the lining, that will close the gap as we sew. So that's going to be at the bottom of the pocket. So let's just top stitch across the top here to make that neat. Just snip off those threads. And take one of your lining pieces, and I'm just going to fold this in half and finger crease to mark the centre, and do the same with the pocket. Place the pocket over that centre crease, not too close to the bottom, so nice and centrally, and then I'll just secure that with a couple of pins, and we'll sew around the bottom 3 sides. So make sure you back stitch at the start of your seam, that's going to make it strong. And of course, if you wanted to put a dividing line along the centre of the pocket, depending on what you're keeping in here, but that would be plenty big enough to put your mobile or your cell phone, or maybe you want to make smaller pockets and make them into pen pockets. Depends what you're going to use your bag for. I'm going to leave mine as one big pocket. Next up, we'll fit the magnetic snap. So you'll see with these, it's the flat sides that go together. So make sure that that is going to be the side that faces the inside of the bag. So you want the lumpy side facing up. I can still see where the centre of my fabric is there, and I'm just going to secure this with a little bit of temporary glue just in the centre of the magnet, and leave this about 1 inch from the top. We don't want this encroaching onto any kind of seam allowance. So the same on the second part of the lining. Let's open that up. A little bit of glue on the flat side, remember, and the same distance from the top, so you can measure that to make sure that it's exactly the same. So same distance from the top and in the centre. And then you might find it easier to put the zipper foot on your sewing machine, or I'm just going to move my needle right over to the left hand side, and we're going to sew around the plastic in a box shape. So use the same colour thread as your lining fabric, and all you'll see from the inside of the bag is this square shape that you've sewn. And these magnets are actually very strong, so it should hold it shut even on a big bag like this. So that's behind the lining, that's what you're going to see on the inside, so barely visible. And then we'll do the same with this one. Now let's fit the handles. So take the outer pieces of the bag and your handle, and we're going to put this around about here. So let's say 6 inches from each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 inches from there. I think that would work well. I don't like handles on bags that are too far apart myself. There. So in between the 5 and the 6 inches is where I'm going to go. And let's just pop a pin in there. Clips may be easier if you're using thicker fabric like this. Make sure the strap isn't twisted. So in between 5 and 6 is here. And pop another pin on there. And then we'll take the opposite side of the bag, measure these up so that they're in exactly the same position, and pin. And then we'll sew straight across within the seam allowance, so quite close to the edge. Then take one of your lining pieces, and this is going to go right sides together over the top of the bag and sew straight across, and then repeat on the other side. So you'll see the magnet in this case now facing upwards. So sew straight across the top of both sections. And then we'll open these out so the lining pieces are right sides together and the outer pieces are right sides together. I'm going to match the seams at the side here and put a pin in there, and the same on this side. I'm not going to pin all the way around, I just like to make sure that my seams are matching. And then we'll sew all the way around the outside of the bag, but not the cut-out corners. And then with the lining, we'll sew all the way around again, not the cut-out corners. And I'm going to leave a turning gap in one side of about 4 inches. And then we'll take the cut-out corners, open them out and sew straight across, and that'll make the bag base square, and we need to do that on all 4 corners. Then let's find our turning gap and we'll turn the whole thing through. Nice big turning gap, makes it easier. Okay, pull that out, and then at this point I like to check my seams and just make sure that all the fabric has been caught and my square base is nice and square and I'm happy with everything. And then pull the 2 sides of the opening away from each other and sew straight across to close it. and then we can push the lining inside the bag. Just pull off the loose thread, and then take your ironing pad and iron so that the seam is sitting right on the edge of the bag. While we're there with the iron, if you have a tailor's ham, that's an ideal way of pressing the seam without squishing the whole bag flat. And on the other side. And I can push this right into the base and press those seams while I'm here as well. Oops, that'll be fine. Right. And then it has kind of folded back over a little bit, but I'm just going to make sure that the seam is right on the top, and then top stitch all the way around the top of the bag. So I can lengthen the stitch a little bit now, so I've gone up to 2.8 on my machine. I'm quite close to the edge, so just 1/8 of an inch or a couple of millimeters away. Make sure the handles are facing upwards when you get to them. And just sew all the way around. And there is my bag finished. So it's quite a quick bag to make. I think it looks impressive because of its size. It's a simple bag to make, but you can find this really useful. So whether you're traveling, if you're going to the beach or taking it to work, or just going shopping, you can fit a lot in here. And of course you can add more pockets if you wanted to as well. I like the length of the straps because it's long enough to put over my shoulder, because I do like to be hands-free, so that's really useful as well. And I just think it looks really very stylish. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you make lots of them, and I hope you enjoy making yours. I'll see you next time.